Let's see here. Susie, are the candidates just gonna kind of stand outside or they?
Yeah, but if I see them in the
Okay.
Are we gonna have a screen to see?
You can start.
Nobody's gonna be on Zoom.
Yeah, no,
But we are live.
so we're ready to go.
All right, we are starting convening at 6:34. Calling to order. Any comments from observers, Susie?
There are none.
No comments, no observers. We'll move on. First item, approval of closed and regular minutes. Can I get, any discussion about the closed meeting minutes from March 15th? If not, can I get a motion to approve closed minutes?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, passes 6-0. Any discussion regarding the regular minutes from March 15th? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay, those all passed. Director's report.
Good evening, everyone. Nice to see you. I think I'll keep it short this evening. I know we have a lot to cover. Most of the stuff in my report is self-explanatory. I just wanted to highlight in particular the legislative breakfast, which is this Friday. I know we've already heard from a number of trustees letting us know that you'll be attending, and because of the number, we'll treat it technically as an open meeting. So, but we're expecting a good turnout from our local elected officials. So we have a number of staff who will give very brief presentations. We can't talk about everything that we do, but just highlighting a few things, and then just kind of have more time for networking, mingling, and just kind of meeting with the staff and the elected officials. So it should be a fun breakfast.
Richard, which side of the building should we enter?
I believe Nancy wants us to meet on the west side, but it'll be in the MR. So.
Okay.
She just sent an email out a little while ago, so she should.
I think if you didn't RSVP, you might not have received it, but if you want to, I can forward it to the rest of you. If you just want to kind of have an idea of what the day is going to look like, even if you can't.
And it is okay if we have to, because I can only stay for an hour, but I definitely want to come. Okay, just want to make sure.
Yeah.
I'll have to be polite and,
No,
okay.
that's fine. I think it'll be structured in a way where you can come and go. If you have any questions before that morning, like tomorrow or whatever, just please let us know. Get in touch with me or Susie or Nancy, and we'll fill you in.
The question I have about it is just the entire event and what is sort of expected of the board members. Are we schmoozing? Are we lobbying? What are we doing?
I think just meeting with schmoozing, I guess is a term I would use too, and just building relationships with them,
Okay.
and helping them become aware of more of what we do.
We're lobbying. Got it.
Well, I think it's a nice time to do this because we're not actually asking for a very specific thing in terms of like lobbying for a legal result or legislative result or anything. And we're fortunate because our elected officials are all very strong advocates of libraries themselves, so we're in a good position. So it's just kind of to keep up and build on those relationships.
We need a new term for schmoozing.
Yeah,
plus
I don't know,
lobbying.
maybe.
Your usual charm should.
Yeah, exactly. And there's the email that Nancy sent is providing some context, is just that there's no expectation to memorize or kind of like have a thing that you want to highlight of their work.
Okay.
So it's just background information.
Richard, I just want to clarify, with the invitation that Nancy sent out, she has a trustee's name and then she has an
Yeah.
elected official.
Yeah.
That's not because we're
Yeah,
managed and we're gonna
yeah,
be, because I
yeah.
thought, do I have to look up everything about Josina Sarita?
I actually, when I looked at it, I thought the same thing, so I'm glad you asked. And It's definitely not to indicate that the person that you're across or lined up with, you need to become the expert on that person. It's more just it's just column A, column B, it's separate.
And it's in anywhere?
Yeah,
Okay.
and well, I mean, if there are other, 3 trustees are in one table, like try to spread out, so that.
Okay.
And the staff will do the same, we'll have maybe 8 staff members there. You'll probably know a lot of them.
Okay,
Yeah, thank you.
congratulations on your reelection.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Board.
Thanks.
All right, any questions on the director's report? Hearing none, we'll move on. Next up is the approval of the March disbursement report, which are pages 4 to 14. Discussion, questions?
I had a question on 6250 Dell Marketing. There's numerous
Yes,
charges
so
on those.
the first one is for public laptops, so laptops we use for the patrons. The other 2 are kind of accessories, monitors, that kind of thing. I think something to do with the camera licensing thing, and then the big one at the end is for, I think, 30 staff computers. So this is part of the planned rollout of refreshing staff equipment and patron equipment.
Do we still have a lot of staff that need new laptops after this big chunk?
The laptops were more for the patrons in this case, but we have, we do provide laptops to some staff. We use them as long as we can, and then if they're really at the end of their life, then we'll replace them. But we get a lot of life out of our laptops.
Okay.
Yeah. We had to, especially during the pandemic when everyone needed one, So
So this 21,000, is that for like
that's,
desktops?
yeah, desktop.
Desktops,
computers, yeah.
okay.
I believe that's all for staff desktops that were very old and needed to be replaced.
What happens to the replaced?
That's a good question. We try to repurpose them if we can. Sometimes we don't need like a full, powerful machine to accomplish a task, so we reuse it. Other times, we have in the past donated them to another like local, taxing body or organization, because it's like the community's equipment essentially, and then if it's really at the end of their life and we can't really do anything with it, very last resort is to bring in a technology specialist to recycle them responsibly. But we try to always find like a second one.
I was just thinking that the youth librarians will know kids who don't, if it's something that can be used again, they know kids who don't have one, that we could just, figure out some way to make that happen without it becoming an issue.
Yeah, we can definitely explore something like that. I love that idea, I remember this was years ago, we took a bunch of equipment and we converted them into Chromebooks essentially, and installed Chrome operating system on them, and our IT staff, and some of them went to the Yellow Parent Center, and I think Turning Point at some point got some. So we try to your point, kind of distribute them where they might be helpful for people who may need computing equipment to help with the digital divide.
If we could add identified youth to it, I think that would be a good thing, because the kids that are interacting here, it helps put them on an equal footing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll reach out to the school superintendents actually and see if what they think. I think that now that I think about it, some of it has changed because so many of the schools, I think all the feeder schools into high school provide one-to-one equipment, but still that doesn't mean that the families might not need an extra computer.
All right. Other questions about that? Do we need to vote to approve it, and it needs to be done individually because it involves money. So for approval, the March disbursement report, Michelle,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Mira,
Yes.
Shebna,
Yes.
Maureen,
Yes.
and yes as well, so that passes 6-0. Given we have interviews supposed to start at 7, and I know some people aren't feeling well tonight, may not be staying late, I want to jump to page 32, which is the approval of, or not approval of, the operating budget for 23-24, which also involves salary and wage increases. Rather vote on that now before the 7 o'clock start. So do you want to talk about that at all? Anything you want to add? Do we need to vote on them separately, or just
Yes.
approving the budget?
I would
You have them
appreciate,
listed separately.
yeah, I would appreciate 2 separate.
All right, so let's start with approval of salary and wage increase for non-union eligible employees. What would you like to say, Richard?
I think I've shared my thoughts with the board at the last meeting in closed session, and if there's a motion to approve, I would appreciate it.
Okay. Any questions? Hearing none, can motion to approve the salary and wage increase for non-union eligible employees.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Should we make it,
Second.
want to make it specific?
Specific, all right, so 2.5% with a 1% merit. 2.5% across the board with a 1%
Up to a
merit.
1%.
Up to a 1% merit increase.
For non, this is for particularly for, yeah, strictly for non-union.
Union and would waive the upper limit. Pay the rate.
Yeah, we don't have to. They have to vote on.
All right.
Motion, yes.
Okay, so I assume your motion still stands, still
Okay.
second.
Second.
Okay, then we'll vote separately. Michelle,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Kira,
Yes.
Shebna.
Yes.
Yes, and yes, so that passes 6-0. Gets us to page 32, approval of the operating budget.
I think my lengthy memo says it all here, but I just want to point out that I'm trying a little different. I'm trying to expand the communication about the budget. This year, I hope you noticed, I broke it out into different sections: projected incoming revenue, utilization of existing funds, that's kind of revenue that's outside of like tax revenue and interest and that kind of thing. Projected person, we grouped the expenditures into large buckets, so personnel related expenditures. Now, just point out that's not just salaries, that's everything related to supporting our staff in terms of benefits, continuing education, FICA, IMRF, health insurance, obviously. Projected patron resources, so that's collections, programs, all that, all that and more. And then projected operations expenditures, that's really technology, building, utility, that kind of thing. And then, oh, sorry, not the building. That was such a big part that we separated that out as well, including cleaning supplies, cleaning services, that kind of thing. And then the last one, or the second to last one, is management expenditures. That's related to kind of more of like the business fees and that kind of thing. And then the capital expenditures is for capital projects. So, hopefully that's been that was helpful. I tried to touch on every line, if there was something to say about it. The second sheet after the memo, the second document I should say after the memo is what we usually receive, a picture of what we project to receive in revenue, and then what we project to have it in terms of expenditures during the year. You'll notice that there is the utilization of the reserves for capital projects is at 6.4 million. Obviously, the big assumption there is that we move forward with the third floor renovation project. That's yet to be approved by the board, obviously. So if we don't move forward with that for some reason, then we will just remain in reserves. So that's not the that doesn't make expenditure of that amount mandatory if the board approves this budget. There's also the 250,000 in ARPA funds that we received last year, and we haven't decided how to spend that money yet, and we'll spend kind of the beginning part of this fiscal year talking about that and determining that, but just wanted to note that as well. So what else? We're reordering on the projected operating budget, the kind of the line item sheet on page 38. You may or may have not noticed that Blythe, when she put this together, we're ordering it a little differently so that it aligns with the big buckets that the groupings that I mentioned in the memo. So that's what we plan to use for this next fiscal year when we give you the year-to-date updates.
I like this layout when I looked at it, and because I always look at the numbers first. So I went there, I'm like, geez, why did this do this? And then I looked at the memo and it was really clear for me, like how everything lined up. So I quite like seeing like expenses and, you know, revenues come together. I think the only question that I had that I just want to make sure I fully understand, and I asked you about it, but I know you said Blythe is the expert in this. When I was looking at the line items, I just want to make sure I understand for the employer's IMRF, that's a really huge line item, and the projected expense for that is down significantly. So I just want to make sure that we're budgeting appropriately for that and really understanding why there's a decrease in that line.
I had the same question.
The reason why there's a decrease is for next fiscal year, from May through December, it's a 4.28% rate. Last year, and I had this and I lost it, hold on, maybe it's on here. Last year, I think it was 7.44. The year before that, it was 10.25. Okay. So I budgeted, and I'm sorry, let me take a step back. IMRF is on a calendar basis. They change the rate every calendar year, and we find out about it in November. So from January to December of 2023, it's 4.28%. So if you've seen this year's line item, that IMRF, there's money left over, it's because of that. Because from January to April, I had like an 8% estimate, and it came out to be 4.28. So from May through December, I had 4.28, and then for January, February, March, and April of fiscal
of next year,
2024, I estimated it at 8.5%.
Okay, so I went for the higher.
Well, the reason why I did that too is because in talking to Julian, when he gave me the initial rate of 4.28, because they come up with an estimate and then they come up with the final number. When he gave me the estimate, he goes, you know, Blythe, this is really low. This is based on December of 2022. The market changed. Okay, so he goes, I'm sure they're going to change the number and they're going to go up. The final number was the same. So because things have changed, I chose to estimate for January, February, March, and April of 2024 at an 8.5% rate higher. It could come in at 8, it could come in at 7.5.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I understood, because I was like, oh wow, down 35%, and that's a huge line item.
And it's just simply because 8 of those months are at 4.28%.
Okay, that's clear.
This is, we think this will be an anomaly, because we're given the rate already, but it's much lower than kind of the recent years past and what we think will happen next year.
Why is the rate so much lower?
I think IMRF would need to explain how they calculate that, but you
they do an actuarial, they do an actuarial, they do, you know, an actuarial report every year, and they look at how many members do we have, who's contributing, who's retiring, who's not contributing but not retired yet. Then they do the life expectancy. They do an actual, you know, they do a report every year, and they look at our investments. They look at how much money we've contributed. And through all of that, they come up with how much money they think the library has to put for next year, based on wages and stuff like that. So it's this whole big process that they come up with. That's basically how they do it.
And just for clarity, Julian is Julian Prendy,
I'm
Village
sorry.
Finance Director. I think everyone knows, but just want to make sure.
Okay. Thank you. I just assumed.
Other question?
I'm just curious about the parking lease. Have we discontinued that?
No, the parking lease is still, we're planning to have it, but we folded that into, I believe, it's either businesses. Let me see.
It's incorporated into, hold on, business expenses and fees.
Okay, yes, that's right. Sorry, that's a good point to mention as well. We eliminated, or consolidated, I should say, learning platforms into learning and research. We consolidated parking lease and office expense and transportation into a bigger line item, and then small equipment into furniture and equipment, because historically those have been such small line items relatively, so we felt like it would be clearer just to kind of group some of those smaller ones together.
I had a question regarding the receptions and meetings.
Sure.
We only used, still like 79% of our budget left from last year of the 25,000. I guess my question is why are we budgeting another 25,000 for this year? Do we have something that we're needing, or it just seems like a really big overestimate for something that we haven't really utilized?
I think back in the day, we used to use more of it because we were more actively like hosting networking events, that kind of thing. It's possible that we could reduce that, but since we were able to keep it without kind of sacrificing elsewhere, we thought we would just keep it another year, I think, just see what happens. But in the future, it's possible.
Yeah, just something to watch that, if there's monies that we could be using it for something else.
It's one of our smaller items, but it's true that we can probably trim that if needed.
Is the legislative breakfast under that category?
Yeah, well, whenever we just have like, pastries, breakfast, whatever, that kind of thing, we'll take it out of that line item.
So this Friday's event is underneath that?
Okay. We order food. Susie's took care of it. I don't know anything about it.
And that would be under this year's budget. Just to clarify, with the union agreement, there's a retroactive 2-year 3% pay for the union staff. Is that coming out of this year's personnel line?
Yes, this current fiscal year, before we close out.
So that's not.
Yeah, that's not reflected. It's the lump sum payments are not reflected in this, but the increases that will result in higher wages and salaries is reflected in this.
The lump sum is taking out of our FY 23.
Yes, exactly. That's about to end at the end of this month. Although the timing of the payment, because we need to find out what actual hours will work through April, will be right at the beginning of things.
And I have to say too that I really appreciated the narrative. I know that probably took a lot more time, but it was very helpful in understanding all of it, since I go to the reading of it first and then the numbers. So I thought it was good to know that.
That works either way.
Yes. We still got to the same place.
Yes, for sure. And then I just wanted to highlight and make sure, because I know that it was one of our bigger expenses this past year, was just for like the legal expenses, that we really feel comfortable with the estimate that we've now put in here. Because I know we were certainly high due to collective bargaining, but that was one line item I was tracking all year. We just were over by a lot. So I want to make sure we feel confident with that number too.
I feel as confident as I can be with knowing what will happen in the year, but I agree with you that one was definitely over this year. There will be, as you've seen throughout the year, because we just had no way of predicting how many hours we need to go into collective bargaining. But that's the past. Moving forward, obviously we won't be in collective bargaining for the next fiscal year, but we will have, I'm sure occasions when we need to consult our attorney on how to handle a situation, whether it's not just related to employees or HR, but if we do the renovation project, there's always a little bit of contract review and kind of consulting there from our legal team. So that will factor into it. So I didn't feel like we needed to kind of.
I don't want to inflate it, but I do want to prevent something, where we're short,
If something serious happens, and we just couldn't predict it and the attorney fees really kind of ballooned, then we could always, I mean, then something, is serious enough where we could always come back and the board can consider a budget amendment if needed or, but that's always a really tough one to predict because of what we just talked about. It's hard to predict.
Circumstance.
Yeah.
I just want to say, I'm really happy to see the increase in spending for the education and memberships for the staff. I just think investing in employees and education and development is really important. And now that things are opening up, I'm glad to see that we've reallocated more funds to that. Because I think it also, we'll speak about the mission statement later, but I think that really feeds into that quite nicely. So
I appreciate
I
that.
like that.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that, and we feel the same way. And I was just talking with Laura actually this afternoon, I believe, or morning or whatever, about how many people were sent into the ALA annual conference, which is in Chicago this summer. So
We have 31 people going for at least one day. Some are going for the full conference, some are just going for one-day stints. And we will also have some of the program streaming here for people who can't get down to the McCormick Place.
So we're, especially when it's something where people don't have to travel far, it's right here in the city, like we can send more people, we always try to take advantage, but 31 people is a lot of.
That's 20% of our staff, so
That's great.
pretty good.
That's great.
By the way, during ALA, this is just a tangent, but during the ALA annual, we're part of a architecture tour program, like a pre-conference. So a bunch of people who sign up for that will be busing to our library and doing a full tour of our renovation and everything, so that's kind of exciting.
I like that.
Yeah.
Any other questions? All right, then can I have a motion to approve the 2023-24 budget for $13,191,686.
So moved.
Second? All in favor? Michelle?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Mira?
Yes.
Shubham?
Yes.
Maureen?
Yes.
Yeah, so that passes 6-0. All
Thank you.
right.
Thank you for all your hard work on that.
Thank you. Well, Blythe did all the heavy lifting, so as usual. With this stuff, in
Can I
particular.
get a motion to go into closed session?
So
Interview our applicants for the open position. So moved, second.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.